Okay, BSODs. The BSOD, or the blue screen of death, is more accurately known as a Windows stop error. That's what it will be referred to as in Windows. And we have an example here. You see the blue screen with all the code on there. So if you see this, you're going to need to restart the system. If the error doesn't come up again, then you're in good shape usually. Sometimes it's just a freak occurrence. But if you see it again, two, three, four times, then you're going to need to troubleshoot and find out what the problem is. And the problem's usually divided into one of two different things. They can be driver related, and we showed actually the first blue screen we showed was driver related, and this one is as well. There's a list of drivers that are loaded up here, starting with ntosKernel.exe, and that is the core. That is the kernel file for Windows. Without it, you can't do anything. And then all these other drivers are loaded up, and then the second column here. And, you'll see ones that fail quite often. HAL.dll, keyboard class, srv.sys. This is a common one. And, I've got a bunch of BSODs saved from virtual machines that I've either created myself or seen over the years. And srv.sys, this is a kind of common one. That's the system file that underlies the server service. Without it, you can't have anybody connect to your system to view documents or take remote control of your system or that type of thing. So this guy will fail sometimes, and what you're looking for is the last driver on the list. That's the one that failed. And then that information about that failure and all the contents of memory will be dumped into a file. You can see here's the beginning, the dump of physical memory, and you can actually debug from that file, from those file contents. So it could be a driver that's an issue, and that could be the file failed because of a hard drive problem, or possibly the file was manipulated in some way. So watch out for driver issues. The other possibility is it could be hardware related, and if you see a blue screen like this, it could actually be hardware or software related. But generally, I see a hardware issue if I see this, and a device might be failing. It might have an electrical short, or it might need to be updated as far as the driver goes. The RAM might have failed. So there's a lot of possibilities here with this. And you might have to get more into the nitty gritty and actually open the system and do some swapping of parts if that's the case. So it could be driver related or it could be hardware related. And indirectly, this could also be software related. A device might need a new driver or something like that. And so what you can do is you can check the system log in the event viewer. That is, if you can get into the system. If it happens once or twice and you can still get into Windows, try checking the system log, and you do that in the event viewer. And you can open this by going to the search field or going to the run prompt and typing event vwr.msc. That brings up the event viewer. You can go to Windows Logs and then go to System. And what you're looking for is any exclamation points that might have logged what happened with the system. Okay, this is just an error with the service that failed to start, and that's actually because I turned it off in msconfig, and that's one of the drawbacks of msconfig is that some of the things that don't start in there might actually show up as a system error. But you might see the error here, and you can find out more information about it by double-clicking on it. And we'll double-click on any one of these here, and that'll bring up the event properties for that. And here we go. The Windows Modulars installer service terminated. The module couldn't be found, and that is actually an issue on this system. But I know about it, and I'll fix it when I get a chance. It's not really necessary for this particular computer, but you would want to fix this. And this could be fixed in a couple ways. You could actually download this specifically from the TechNet, or you could update the software and hope that that does the fix for you. But you're going to want to take a look at those errors. Maybe the crash, the BSOD, will actually show up here. It may not, though, and then you may have to go further. If necessary, check the dump file with the Windows debugger or the kernel debugger. If you don't have the Windows debugger on your system, you can download that from the Microsoft support page. Just do a search on their page and you'll be able to download that. And then you can view the contents of that BSOD, that dump file that it created from there, the contents of RAM. That's going to be very code oriented. So you're going to have to take your time with that. But that all assumes that you have a dump file to look at, and that has to be turned on in the system. So that's always something to take a look at when you're looking at systems. And I'm in the system properties window here, which you can get from the system window, or you can type directly from the run prompt. And what you want to go to is the advanced tab. And from the run prompt, you can do this automatically. You can type system properties advanced.exe. That's all one word. And from that advanced tab, you'll go to startup and recovery, go to settings, and we're running Windows 7 here. And then down here, you see system failure. That's that stop error or system failure. You want to make sure that this is set, first of all, to write an event to the system log, as we mentioned before. If it's not checkmarked, it's not going to be there. And if it's a really bad failure, it may not write it to there anyway. It depends on how low level the file was that failed or the hardware that failed. You also want to have automatically restart checkmarked. And this way, if there is a BSOD, it'll do a countdown, then restart the system. Because again, quite often, you'll get a BSOD, but then you won't see it again. And then you write the debugging information to a dump file. For example, you could do the kernel memory dump or a smaller memory dump. You should really keep it as kernel memory dump. In most networks, especially enterprise networks, you want to have this. And that's going to save that file here. So if you can't boot the system, you can use the Windows debugger software on another computer, or you could boot with third-party software to view this memory dump. You could boot to a disk or USB flash drive, and you would want to get administrative access one way or another from the drive here in the system root, which is going to be the Windows folder by default, and then look for that memory.dmp file and then analyze it. That's where the fun begins. And you're going to want to access the TechNet to see a lot of the codes and see what you're actually looking at. This stuff is normally enabled by default in Windows Vista 7, 8, etc. But you never know. It might have been turned off as a part of a policy, or it could be that the user turned it off. Who knows? So if you do get a BSOD on the screen and the system reboots and it still works okay afterwards, go in here and check this and make sure that these are check marked and that you have a full memory dump set up so that you can view that information if it does happen again. Always check that. So a little bit about blue screens of death. Again, these are failures or Windows stop errors or boot failures. That's what they're going to be called by Microsoft, but they're more affectionately known as BSODs. And that blue screen, you're going to want to check that out and find out whether it's driver related or hardware related, and use your tools to see what exactly the problem was and why the failure occurred.